ठीक है. Okay, so very good morning people online. Are you able to see? Live हो गया है? शो नहीं कर रहा. Okay, now I think I can see this. Very good morning, Umar, Rakesh, Ashutosh, Tarun, Ritu. Right, so we will start with the lecture number 4. And just in a brief recap, you can just tell me what did we do in the previous class? Instead of now, instead of me asking you, can you tell me what we were doing? Good morning, good morning. Okay. And we did 8 factors, right? Okay. Are we aware about some of the examples of these 8 factors? Because this class, at least the first major portion of this class, is going to be dependent on our knowledge of abiotic factors. Okay. So I will just, I maybe give 1 or 2 minutes for people online also to settle down. Is there a murmuring issue for other students also? Please confirm that online. Okay, there is a murmur. Okay, so let us just have a look at. Is it any better now? Mic issue. Okay. Okay, just give me a moment. We'll try to figure this out. In the moment, we'll have a just. Any other doubts from the previous class? Ashutosh, I'll take up your doubt. Other students also? So in the meantime, if the voice part is getting fixed, so other people, if you have gone through the 3 classes, any doubt that you wanted to discuss, we'll be more than happy to help you out on that front. Voice is now fine. Is it, people? So that the next 3 hours for us can be then very smooth. Okay, the online people, just let us know just once. This doubt for vultures, I'll tell you, when we do the process of decomposition, that will be done tomorrow, which means in the next class, lecture number 5. In lecture number 5, there's a topic I'll do, decomposition. Okay, I think the voice is fine now, right? Okay, okay, great, great. So we were talking about, so again, just let me just give you a very 1-minute overview of what we are going to discuss in this class. We are going to talk about a very important topic, that is adaptations. I've already built the foundation for you because we have covered the impact of abiotic factors for both plants and for both animals. Okay, so this class is almost going to be a continuation of the entire thing, where we will talk about this thing in more detail, right? So just quickly tell me, what were the abiotic factors? Light, temperature, soil, pH, wind, yes, humidity and salinity. Okay, temperature. So now just imagine, we have seen that, for example, if we talk about cactus. Okay, so cactus, in previous class also we said, instead of leaves it has thorns. So today we will see why this is happening. This is a modification that you see on the outer layer, right? So this is also called, there is a term we will see very shortly, this is known as, let's say, structural adaptation. So adaptation can be of three types, and first of all we'll see what are the different types of adaptations, and again some of the examples I think we discussed. Let's say try to recall, why did we discuss kangaroo rat in the previous class? They can survive without water. Okay, so here both by their structure, by their function, and by their physiology. Physiology means their internal working. Plants and both animals will be doing a let's say basic changes in their own attributes. Yes. Sir, जो भी animals होते हैं जो water के बिना survive कर लेते हैं, वो camels थे या फिर kangaroo में थे? यहाँ पे द कंगारू रैट है वो, दैट इज अलग. कंगारू इज डिफरेंट, कंगारू रैट इज डिफरेंट, बोथ आर वेरी डिफरेंट. Kangaroo rat is going to be found in very arid conditions. Although the name is kangaroo rat, you may think it's like a kangaroo, although they are different. So again, that is something that's a fair doubt to have right now. Okay, right. See, now let's talk about and let's discuss this. So I will talk about adaptations. You don't need to write this as of now. So what I will do, just let me also open a particular. So what we are going to discuss and how we will take notes now. I'll just make a very simple mind map. Okay, so in your notes you will also have a mind map, and leave some space because I'll keep on adding some things, and after that we will have a write up. Write up I will tell you, but first of all we'll try to understand what this is entirely, right? So we are talking of the different types of adaptations. So we have seen, and we are going to talk about three major types. Okay, so the first type is known as structural. In some books you may find another words, just write it here, don't get confused. This is known as morphological. This is first type of adaptation we will see, and when we make notes we will, because this mind map will guide you, this is the kind of summary that you will have already made for you, and then the write up associated with we'll also write separately. Fine. So what we can do here, for each of the things, like we have made plants and animals, so finally when you revise you just have to see this. Okay, so one is structural adaptation, we have behavioral adaptation. So just write down behavioral, don't repeat the word adaptation. Here also we will have a look at plants, animals, and then is physiological. Now some of you may be seeing these terms, behavior, maybe we know what is a behavior, but morphological, maybe you're seeing this for the first time. Structural also, you don't know what is the meaning of structural, what is happening exactly. And similarly, maybe physiological, you don't know. But of course, we'll try to understand this. So if you take your notes in this manner, that is why in the previous biotic, abiotic, we have used the same format. Fine. So the people who are also, let's say, writing this, just follow the manner in which, let's say, we are doing. Okay. So plants, yes, and then animals. So here, in one line, what this is. So when we talk about the structural, it simply means the changes in the body. Whatever changes are there in the body, either of plants or of animals, this is classified as structural change. Okay. Here we are only writing the code words or keywords. When we have the write up, proper definitions we'll write, but this is going to be your summary, direct mind map. The moment you only have to revise this and leave some space here only the examples. Okay. So whatever changes are happening in the body, let's say if I talk about cactus, cactus has a fleshy stem. Cactus has, for example, instead of leaves, it has thorns. All these are structural adaptations. Now there is something very, let's say you would have heard about it, okay, and it is also used in a lot of phrases. You know what's a chameleon? In simple Hindi, we say girgit. Why is girgit known? What is it known for? Chameleon? It changes in color, and we are talking of this. but sometimes people also use it that some people change their color, right? So we are not talking about that. So we are talking of an animal. Very interestingly, this is a structural adaptation. There are different cells in the body or basic the skin structure. I will also tell you what are the exact in the body. They have chromatophores. Because of that, they are able to change the color. Okay. In the previous class, I also asked you to tell me about how is the sunflower able to keep on seeing. Did anybody see that? Huh? So you have been very sincere with the homeworks. Chalo, in this class, that problem will be solved. We'll see a term phototropism. So that is again a kind of behavioral adaptation. So behavior is the function. Okay, behavior is a simple term. This here only we are talking about the function. Okay, in this case, for example, animals will also have certain behavioral modifications. Very easy to understand is migrate. Okay, if there is a stress in the atmosphere, if it is too hot, too cold, they can easily migrate. In this case, in plants, one very good example that I just gave you is sunflower. It keeps on seeing that sun. That phenomena is known as phototropism. We'll write that down. Okay, so this based on the functions, what are the adaptations that are there? They are known as behavioral adaptations. Okay, and then you have physiological. Now this is as per the internal working. Okay, so based on the changes inside the body. So here I'm just writing inside the body. These are the physiological changes that happen inside the body and which finally lead to certain adaptations. Okay, so in many times books, what they will just simply do, sometimes only these words are there, you don't generally understand it, and then of course examples etc. in very segregated manner is not there. So here also from the very first class, what we are aiming to do is to have a very good understanding. So now when you see a lot of species, you will also understand what is happening. How many of you know there is something known as venom? Snake's venom. Why was it in news? But generally, why snake venom is in news? Anything else? Or kuch? But why was it in news for the wrong reasons? Right. Okay. So here also when I say snake's venom, we'll also see in which heading we can fill that. Okay. So again, the idea here is, be it you have heard about camouflage. Okay, camouflage. See, when we talk about army will wear a certain uniform that is very difficult to find these, let's say, troops, because they will exactly mimic the conditions of a forest. So camouflage is just hiding. So here also there are certain, let's say, I will give you an example of monarch butterfly. Okay, it is very famous for camouflage. Then there is something known as mimicry. So what they will do, some of the insects etc., they will exactly mimic a certain condition just so that it does not get caught. Isn't that again a modification, adaptation? And the main idea of these adaptations, why are we discussing them? Simple thing, just remember one thing: survive. Everything, because ultimately this is evolution. In evolution, the biggest achievement is if you're able to be alive. In the previous classes, we also saw that, right? That evolution, survival of the fittest. And it is these evolutions, the adaptations that have happened for years and years and years, this has led these plants and animals to ultimately survive. Okay, so when we understand this, then I will again connect it to the last topic we saw, eurythermal and stenothermal. Then I'll tell you terms like who are conformers, who are regulators, who are partial regulators, etc. Okay, how so what, for example, we are able to control our body temperature, but there are many species who are not able to control. And when you have this knowledge, then I will tell you climate change, because abiotic factors I've told you about temperature. Here we are saying because of changes in temperature, salinity, many things, these are the adaptations that are happening. And then now you will understand that why there is such a problem if the temperature increases. Maybe not directly to us, but for certain species because they cannot change. And then you also know something known as a domino effect, that if certain species getting lost, the opposite may also happen. Slowly and steadily other species may also get impacted. Okay, so again this is a term we'll see tomorrow. Then we do food chain, food web and different pyramids. Okay, so again let's say the lecture is structured in such a manner that all these things when you read later and again in the class also, you will have a very good solid understanding on this. Okay, so how many of you have drawn this basic? Okay, now please leave some space for plants and animals. I will just make you write down one very simple definitions, and alongside examples after the class again write down examples here. So it's just a repetition that will happen at your end, but nonetheless it's going to give you a very good understanding, right? Yes, the physiological, yes, it may be related to, you are right. One of the doubts, I think, Ashutosh, I'll just take it up maybe after I'm done with this section, so don't worry. Because in we and plus we can also have this doubt in the aquatic ecosystem, then also it will make more sense, right? Yes, okay. Two of you told about phototropism, very good, right? Okay, so now please just write down the heading for us is adaptations. So here just one line, please write adaptations are traits or behaviors. किसकी? No. I'll tell you what to make sense of it. अच्छा, adaptations की definition वो लिख चुके हो ना, basic definition? अच्छा, ठीक है. Then thank you for pointing out. Just a second. 1 second if you give. नहीं अभी special features or behaviors. अच्छा, ठीक है. This you have already written. Then directly come to this. No. Stenothermal. I'll connect. Leave some space. You've drawn this. Okay. We're directly jumping to types of adaptation. So I think you have already written what adaptations are, right? We'll talk about types of adaptations. Okay. First is structural or morphological. Sometimes if they use the term morphological, now don't get confused. Okay, whenever I used to see this term, I always did not know what it means. So again, I am assuming this could also be a problem for some of you. So we are talking of structural or morphological adaptations. Okay, so these are, you can write down the changes please write down, these are the physical features. These are the physical features that help the organism survive. These are the physical features that help the organism survive. Now, in this, the first subheading is plants. In plants, 2 or 3 examples. In animals, 2 or 3 examples. So, in plants, please write. And this is how we have structured our notes for abiotic factors also. Plants, animals. So, you will never be short on examples and understanding, right? So, the very first thing, in plants, first you can write down thorns and spines. One spine is what we have, but this is not that spine. Okay, thorns and spines. So we write plants in arid. देखो इसमें मैंने what I've said, after you are done writing the examples, you can add in the mind map. But if you write it here, then you will not have space. Right? We are doing the writing part. So after you are done, then fill the details here. Already, this is the ultimate thing that you need to know, that only the examples. But because this, some of you may be very new, you don't know exactly what is happening, what is the main idea behind it. So at least one line each I have to tell you. Okay. So here first, so in that, plants in arid, ARID, plants in arid environment like deserts, often have spines instead of leaf. Often have spines, or let's say thorns, instead of leaves. Kyun? Why? Yes. So if you don't know, just two very simple points. One, to prevent water loss. Second, to prevent from herbivores. Herbivores would want to eat. They already have very less. The leaves, etc., cannot grow. This is just for your understanding. If you want, bracket may, 2 reasons are there. One, to prevent water loss, and then second is to escape or protect against herbivores. Sorry? Protect against herbivores. Third point is also equally fine. We have also discussed that. Third is it is ultimately reduced surface area. In leaves, you have more surface area, more evapotranspiration loss. Here, it is less. So, what is the example here? Desert, give me one example. Cactus. Okay, so write down cactus. And another example, because generally when we interact with students, if I ask you about what are the other plant species in desert based areas, the only response we get is cactus. So your homework is, apart from cactus, at least 2, 3, 4 very prominent varieties from India. Okay, don't do that for USA, etc. That is not very relevant right now. Especially, let's say, what are the prominent plants, etc., found in Thar Desert. That is a good point to remember. Cactus everybody will know, but other names you are not able to. And why am I asking this? Even in the NCRT, apart from cactus, 2 or 3 things are there. Khejri is good. Good example. What is khejri? अच्छा चलो ठीक है वो अभी अच्छा where is it found? We have discussed this. हाँ हाँ ठीक है. So that is also there. Okay. KHEJRI. Khejri tree. This is known as Prosopis cineraria, but वो आपके काम की चीज नहीं है. कौन सा? They can, but I'm not sure. हो सकता है you are thinking of something else right now. Okay, that is the first example. Indoor air plants, that's separate. It's different from this. I think in the last class you spoke about indoor air plants, right? Next, oh, very good. This is already mentioned. Good point. One of your friends has contributed. One example is Optunia. Optunia. Very good example. No, I simply said the plants in arid environment like deserts, they have thorns instead of leaves. Okay. The other 3 points are just something we've discussed if you wanted to write. So 3 things we have said. Why? To prevent water loss, to prevent being eaten up by herbivores, and third was reduce surface area. Okay, that's all we've discussed. Additionally, we discussed some of the varieties of Optunia, then cactus, okay, khejri also. But again, I would want you to know 2 or 3 main prominent varieties. This is something that you have to do at your end also. Okay. Second example, waxy cuticles. Now, with each example, I'll just mention it here. After you are done, or maybe after the class, you can add it to your notes. Okay. So the very first thing, let's say if I'm saying thorns, spines, this is waxy, VAXY, waxy cuticles. CUTICLES, waxy cuticles. Dash, it prevents water loss. It prevents water loss by creating a barrier, to evaporation. Barrier to evaporation. इसमें one example or you can use is succulent. SUCC. Oh, sorry, SUCCU, not E. Succulent. SUCCULENTS. Succulents. So they have a waxy cuticle. And third example is this also. I think I think one student had spoken in the previous class. Root systems. So here the root systems. Think about a desert. Now already the water is less. So would the roots spread out to think of or get more water? So root systems. These are all the modifications. Right. Root systems. Okay. Here I'll give you 2 examples for root systems. So first, please write down desert plants like mesquite trees. हाँ, desert में एक example. This is one example in desert. अब ये जो term आपने सुना mesquite, later on, if you read in current affairs some of the tree varieties, So if you get an arid tree, generally हो सकता है वो it is mesquite tree. There is also one in the current. Abhi I am not telling you. When I do the lectures on trees, I'll again tell. But this is a point of reference just so that you know. So desert plant like mesquite, mesquite, mesquite trees have deep tap roots. Yes, very, very good, very good. Deep tap roots. While, now I'm changing the example, while grasses in areas with rainfall have shallow roots. So this is a comparative example. They have shallow roots. Okay. So this is some of the examples that you need to know. Now let's talk about animals. Certain structural adaptations for animals. One I just told you about, camouflage. CAMO, CAMOU, FLAGE, camouflage. What is camouflage? Blending or changing the color. Okay. And just think that it is difficult then to detect. The predator will not be able to find the prey. That is the whole idea. Things are here dependent on. So here just core thing is survival. Okay. For camouflage, please write. Example, chameleons or chameleons, what you say? CHAMELEONS. Or if you are still struggling, bracket will also write girgit. Maybe some of you can also connect with that. Okay, so what is the point we say? In here, we'll write chameleons can change their color to blend with their surroundings. To blend with surroundings. To blend with surroundings. Okay. One extra thing, please write or in the margins, because I told you why are they able to change their color. Okay. So you can write down in their body they have. Sorry. Chromatophores. Which helps them to change their color. Okay. I think beyond chromatophores you don't have to know. There are also a couple of other mechanisms that they have. एक second, there's also one technical name. I'm just. अच्छा, chromatophores लिखा CH. There is also iridophores. They have IR iridophores. Why are we going in slightly some detail? Because 2 years back there was a question on bioluminescent properties. Which of the following exhibits? So another question can be, why is that happening? For example, in this case, let's say why are they able to change the color? But if you get a direct question, you may not be able to think. But now when you understand, it is a type of adaptation. And then it is an adaptation structural, which means on the body there are certain cells like chromatophores, okay, like iridophores. Yes, both of them, chromatophores and iridophores, help them in changing colors. Okay, so actually iridophores, just listen to it, don't have to write. These contain some reflective crystals. Okay, so that will reflect the light. So that also helps in changing colors. So at max, if you just want to write in the bracket some crystals, you can write. This also helps in changing the color. That is the extra thing I have told you. Okay. Yes, yes, both of them help to change the color. That is the whole idea. Okay. Second point in that, you can write about. This is easy to understand. Sharp claws and teeth. Sharp claws. Animals में. Sharp claws and teeth. This is an adaptation, right? Sharp claws and teeth. Do herbivores have this or do carnivores will have this? So this will help them in predation, hyena. So again, this is an adaptation that has happened. So here just bracket, you can write down carnivores. Any example of carnivores you want to say? Yes, lion, tiger. For your understanding, you can write that. So sharp claws and teeth. Huh? But depend if they have to be predator. This is again a response to have efficient prey. अब आप देखो predator prey है. If predator is not able to catch the prey, after certain time it will die out of hunger. So जितना भी time है, and plus this also knows कि my life is in danger. So the entire chemistry revolves around this chemistry, or at least the structural part. So here, of course, they would want to optimize and save time. So जितना efficient हो सकते हैं, that is why these adaptations are happening. Okay. Sharp claws and teeth and dash carnivores. That's it. And the last is body shape, because see, remember again and again, this is structural is body related. Okay. So in body, let me now go to another ecosystem. Let's say if I talk about aquatic ecosystem. When you see fish is able to swim very well. Why is that? Again, because of its body, because it has a very streamlined body shape. Okay, when you read about, for example, why is Lamborghini able to go very fast, but let's say Nano, of course there are many reasons, you will say it's a body structure, but the point is its design. So it is going to minimize the turbulent airflow because the air is the drag. Okay, so here air is going to friction because let's say the vehicle is going to move. So same is the idea in case of a fish. In fact, that is the idea how the swimmers have to plan their strokes. They have to minimize their area of exposure. They have to be as streamlined. In fact, this is a very interesting topic. For example, I was very interested to know that how Michael Phelps is winning a lot of gold medals. So the kind of research they have on this, the swim suits they wear, they're extremely engineered to reduce the drag. Okay, and then again all the positions, all the strokes, everything. So in the similar manner, because ultimately you want to be as efficient as a fish. Okay, so in body shape, you can just write the example of body shape. Dash, fish have streamlined bodies. Fish have streamlined bodies. Streamlined bodies. Another example can be, let's say, bird. Birds have lightweight, hollow bones. Lightweight, hollow bones that will help them in flight. Lightweight, hollow bones that will help them in flight. Is this clear? So this is all we wanted to discuss about the structural adaptations. Let's now come to behavioral adaptation. So how does the behavior of certain plants or animals change? Okay. So here in plants, the term, I think a couple of you have already mentioned that in the comment section. So we are writing about phototropism. P-H-O-T-O, photo. Tropism, T-R-O-P-I-S-M, phototropism. इसके लिए अब ये याद रखो, this is what we were referring to as in case of sunflower. Okay, So phototropism here is an example, or the sunflower is an example which displays phototropism. So here dash, plants respond to light by growing towards it. Phototropism. Plants respond to light by growing towards it. Okay, example, sunflower tilting itself towards the sun throughout the day. Example, sunflower tilting itself towards the sun throughout the day, right? That is something we already see. So this is a behavior adaptation, right? Second example is nicty nasty. Nicty, NYCTI, NASTY. Name is very difficult or very fancy, but it means very simple. This is another point in plants, another kind of adaptation that you see. Nicty nasty. NYCTI, NASTY. Nicty nasty. Okay. So here we will just say some plants close their flowers or leaves, at night bracket mein you can write to conserve energy, and by the way it can also be there to save their pollen, POLLEN. So this is again a strategy of survival that is being done. Okay, so during the night they will close off their flowers or leaves or save the pollen, POLLEN. So here example can be morning glories. During the night, so again the flowers, these are not open throughout the day, so they want to conserve it, so it is only open for a certain time of the day. So name is morning glory. From the name you can also understand, so it is only, let's say, glorious in the morning, so it is only having a certain time during the day where the leaves or let's say the flower of fruit is visible. That is the meaning here. Okay, dash karke for morning glories, it opens at day and closes at dusk. You know what is dawn and dusk? Where did we read dawn and dusk and twilight? No, but where did you read twilight? Deer. But what is that category? हाँ बस very good. Diurnal, nocturnal, but तीसरा वाला. But what is that तीसरा वाला? What is the third one? हाँ, very good, good. Crepuscular. Okay. So of course we can say opens during the dawn and closes at night, dusk. Okay. So just very simple part. That is the name is morning glories. Okay. Next, please write for animals. Okay. हाँ और भी there are many such. Otherwise there is no limit. We can study so many plants and animals. On adaptation also I think classes are not enough. Very frankly, yes. हाँ हाँ चुन हाँ the moment is सुई yes. Touch me not. हाँ maybe something. I'll just see. अभी थोड़ी देर में I'll have a look at. That is also good example. ऐसा कुछ भी हो. For हाँ yes थोड़ा वैसे है. और भी कोई ऐसा, if there is something that you've seen, you want to know, you can just directly ask. नहीं तो I'll have a look and tell you. हाँ, but almost idea you can understand that why is it doing only in a particular time. Okay, so that can be done. In animals, when you say of behavior या function, anything that comes to mind apart from migration मैं बता चुका हूँ. Behavioral adaptations, people online also. प्रेगनेंसी टाइम में प्रोडक्टिव हो जाते हैं. सॉरी, अच्छा और कुछ Okay. देखो, one thing is migration. Migration you can write. Okay. With migration, I think in one of the classes I told you about Convention on Migratory Species. Does anybody remember that? Very good. COP 13. And what was the topic we were talking? Very good. Great Indian Bustard. Excellent. Excellent. Okay, so it was the mascot of COP 13, which happened in Gandhinagar. This happened in 2020. Okay, so again, coming back, one is migration. Okay, and by the way, migration, don't think only birds do migration. Who can do migration? Can terrestrial animals will do, or avian? Avian means who can fly. Can aquatic do migration? So remember, terrestrial means land, avian, the ones who can fly. Third is aquatic. All the three can go for migration, and all the three, terrestrial, avian, aquatic, are covered under CMS, Convention on Migratory Species. It is the only convention which takes into account all the three migratory species. So you have migratory species, and there is a convention to protect and help them out. Okay, so that is so just write down migration. Okay, so here dash that many animals migrate seasonally. I'll talk about hibernation very shortly. So many animals migrate seasonally to find food, water, or suitable breeding grounds. Are you reminded also of albatross? We saw about albatross. Breeding grounds. In fact, I'll tell you, in the previous class, we had said about Keola Deo National Park. Where was it? Rajasthan. And it is a very famous wintering ground for Siberian crane. In fact, a lot of migratory birds come there. In fact, I also told you ecotones, in that example, wetland have a lot of incoming migratory birds in general also. And out of that, one very prominent is Keola Deo, where what example I gave you? Siberian crane. It visits in that time. The examples that I'm giving you in a running, keep noting them down, okay? Because again, a lot of things can be spontaneous, so you don't want to miss them out. Crane, CRANE, Siberian crane. It's a bird. This is an example of migration, okay? And with migration, I again solidified to you a concept of CMS, which we will again see in conventions, and it takes into account terrestrial, avian, and aquatic species, okay? Now, a very interesting thing additionally I'll tell you, do you see a lot of artificial lights? Are artificial lights a part of our life? And urban areas, of course we use phones and so much of lighting, especially urban areas, right? So there's a lot of lighting. Just imagine you want to go to sleep at 10 p.m. but you actually sleep at 1 a.m. and 2 a.m. Does it happen with many of us? We have a screen, and because of that we're not able to sleep. The same problem also is now having with a lot of migratory species. The problem is in urban areas there is a lot of artificial lighting, so then they don't have a very accurate understanding or a depiction of when the day starts and when the night starts because of excessive artificial light. So the problem that you and I can also have, that our waking times, our body clock or waking time is known as circadian rhythm. Okay, this gets disturbed. Again, this is something you can write only in the margins. So when I say CMS has said that light pollution is a huge challenge for migratory birds. So now, just in a very funny sense, you can also know many people they get awakened by the call of birds. Okay, but now light pollution is also a huge challenge for migratory birds. And now just imagine the bird or those certain species, they are also getting late by 2 or 3 hours. So now you are also getting late, and it is not just being late, their reproductive patterns, their behavioral movement, everything will be impacted. Now I spoke about Siberian crane. Right now what is happening in Russia-Ukraine war is happening. So additional birds who wanted to stay there will also migrate, and migration was supposed to be seasonal. Now let's say the war is happening for a very long time. So they have to then totally migrate. So can you understand the issues that can happen? So light pollution, this is again a totally urban problem, man-made problem, right? And then other can be, let's say, the human-based interventions, that can be a problem, right? All of these are spoken about. So I said circadian rhythms, right, are changed, let's say, right? So coming to the next example, in case of animals, we will write hibernation and estivation. इसके लिए I have, I think, a couple of infographics to show you. Please write this spelling. Estivation. Okay, the easiest infographic for you to see and just remember. Hibernation. The moment you hear about hibernation, here remember hibernation, think about beer. Okay, so there are a lot of cartoons, a lot of, let's say, folk that they will sleep a lot during the winters, during the harsh weathers, and after that they will then come back in the summers. Okay, excessive sleep can also be a way to conserve energy. Okay, when the, and let's say when you sleep, by the way, when we are active, when we are talking, when we are running, we are playing sports, the body needs more energy. Now if they are sedentary, for example, if somebody is only sitting, and then of course if they have to eat, if they eat more, of course they will gain weight, because the body is not losing energy in that sense. So hibernation, the moment I say hibernation now, this is why the infographic says think about winters, think about a beer. The same thing that is done, and remember here the idea is to slow down the metabolic rate, right? The similar thing that is done in summers is known as estivation. Okay, and third term I'll also introduce. Brumation, B-R-U-M-A-T-I-O-N. The activity of hibernation done by reptiles. Give me an example of reptiles. Or koi? Any other example? Lizards and crocodile. You have to tell crocodile. Be ambassador from the very first class. Every day we'll repeat crocodile. Okay? Yes, good examples. Chalo. Can turtles be example of reptiles? They are amphibians. Okay? I gave you three examples of amphibians in the previous class. One is, of course, we know frogs. Other two are snake. कैसे भाई? Snake is a reptile. We just saw that. ये चीज थोड़ा सा you have to do it at your end. Huh? Toad. Very good. Good. Toad you remember. Last one. So it starts with a S. Salamander. Okay. Now, three things we will write. First, please write down hibernation. Some animals enter the state of inactivity. Some animals enter the state of inactivity during extreme weather. Full stop. Bear hibernate during winters. Bear hibernate during winters to conserve energy, while snails, these are snails, estivate. Snails estivate in hot, dry conditions. Snails estivate in hot, dry conditions to avoid dehydration. Leave one line and then write the activity of hibernation done by reptiles is known as brumation. B-R-U-M-A-T-I-O-N. Brumation. The activity of hibernation done by reptiles is brumation. B-R-U-M-A-T-I-O-N. Brumation. Brumation, brumation. Okay, so in animals, what we have seen, I'll also write it here so that we keep a track. First thing was migrate, then brumation. Okay, then next, and for each of them, you know, they very quickly tell me hibernation is done in which time and by who? Winter's beer. Then estivation, snails and not snakes. You know the difference. In summers. And third is brumation by reptiles. Okay, migration, you know. Sorry? No, no, no. Normal beers also do that. It is not just only a certain type of a beer. Sorry? Polar bears can also do that. No, but no, the point that you are saying about the fuzz, etc., that is also an adaptation that is there. Okay, but exact patterns I'll also just have a look and then tell you. Okay, that this is also a fair point to ask. Okay, then we come to physiological adaptations. Physiological adaptations. Summer हुआ ना? Example of smear. हाँ हाँ हाँ. It is the same activity that is done. That is the only thing you have to remember. So here the definition I'll just tell you. Internal body process. So physiological is the internal body process that helps organism cope with extreme environments. Body process that helps organism cope with extreme environments. Okay, internal process that will help them cope with extreme environments. अब इसमें we'll see a couple of very prominent examples that have happened. Okay, अब physiological adaptations, one we'll see for plants. Okay, how is the internal process in the plant changed or getting affected, number one, and then we'll go and do the same for animals. Okay, so the very first thing we will write is salt tolerance. With salt tolerance, what comes to mind from the previous class? Mangroves, halophytes. Okay, so please write down salt tolerance. Plants, within plants, salt tolerance. So here we'll write just one line. Halophytes like mangroves can survive in high salinity soils. They can survive in high salinity soils. High salinity soils by excreting excess salts. By excreting excess means extra salts, through specialized glands. Through specialized glands. Through specialized glands. Another example we'll have is, for example, there are certain tree varieties, etc., who are able to survive in very cold temperatures, very freezing temperatures. Why is that? Because with the cells in the body, they are able to create anti-freeze protein. Okay, so because of anti-freeze protein, they are able to survive extremely hard conditions. Now remember, I told you, for example, even in the plants, etc., the leaf or the main cell structure, it is made up of 70% water. So if it is excessive or if it is more cold condition, this will get frost. Okay, internal damage can happen to the cells. This is a problem. mechanical stresses, etc., or bending can happen because of this. But some of, let's say, the species are able to survive because they create anti-freeze proteins. So that is going to prevent, that is again an internal or a physiological process. Okay, so here please write just one. Pine trees, P-I-N-E. Pine, please remember, these are found in coniferous regions. These are coniferous, P-I-N-E. We'll write this in plants. I don't have space, so I'm writing it here. Pine trees, bracket में for your understanding, write down coniferous. When we do the forest, this classification will become even more clear to you. C-O-N-I, coniferous forests. These are the pine trees, for example. Okay. They produce antifreeze like chemicals. Antifreeze like chemicals to prevent damage from freezing conditions. To prevent damage from freezing conditions. Okay. Now we'll come to animals. Animals, may we'll see a term, and this is a term I will again explain to you. This is a term known as thermoregulation. Thermoregulation. Right. Yes. Thermoregulation. Now here the word of animals will be divided based on this. Have you heard about warm-blooded and cold-blooded animals? Warm-blooded animals are like Sunny Deol, गरम खून, हाँ हो सकते हैं, but यहाँ पे simple है, बहुत very easy to understand. Warm-blooded means who are able to regulate their own body temperature, right? Even if it is very cold outside, or if it is very hot outside, like I told you, if it is very cold, what we'll do, we'll shiver, okay, and we'll maintain a constant internal body temperature. What is that? 37 degrees, for example. And if it is very hot outside, why do we sweat and perspire? Again, to have the constant internal temperature. Now, why have the human species, or let's say even the birds, why have they been able to survive for a very long time? One of the main reason is thermoregulation, or the ability to regulate their own temperatures. The organisms who are able to do so are known as warm blooded organisms. ठीक है, इसमें बस थोड़ी सी देर में I'll tell you more terms. What are ectotherms, what are endotherms, similar terms हैं. Okay, and the second part is cold blooded. Cold blooded में क्या होगा? They will not be able to change, number one. So if it is cold outside, they have to change their temperature. If it is warm outside, they have to change their temperature. So it is totally built, or let's say based on what is the environment. Based on the environment, they will have the temperature. Okay. To explain this, I'll give you a very simple, let's say, example. For example, you have heard about MS Dhoni, right? Even if it is very stressful situation outside, he just bats like he has to. Okay, if India is, let's say, required to have 5 runs for 20 balls, or even 50 run from, let's say, 20 balls, he's just like that, very simple, calm, composed. But for example, some people can be very anxious. Okay, in some cases, when the exam is very near, just the moment you see the paper, the heartbeat goes through the roof. Okay, so based on the difficulty, you become very anxious. If it is very good, extremely chill. Okay, so there's a huge variety of, let's say, emotions shown. So again, in simple sense, this is just an let's say a similar, let's say, kind of comparison I want to make. But main thing is the ability to of regulating the temperatures. It is known as warm blooded. Okay, the ones who cannot, these are cold blooded. Okay, so for thermoregulation, please write down one line. Very good example, Shubham. The classic example is saying Virat Kohli versus Dhoni. Okay. So now we will, let's say, give an example. For example, thermoregulation, please write. Animals like Arctic fox, animals like Arctic fox grow thick fur coats, grow thick fur coats, and that is just complete this, to retain heat, thick fur coats to retain heat. While now, if have you seen elephants and their ears? Okay, so that is to help them dissipate the heat. Different, let's say, mechanisms. So here you can say uh, while elephants use large ears to dissipate heat in hot climate. Next is venom. Venom. Venom is zehar, okay, poisonous. So this is again helpful to survive. You can think of this also as a defense strategy. So for venom, please write down animals like snake produce venom. And when I'm saying snake produce venom, put a star mark. Snakes and the venom have been in news. I'll give you a very short, a small homework. Just see which first question is whether all kinds of snake produce venom, and second question is whether all the venoms are poisonous or not. So you have to understand whether having venom or whether all the venoms are poisonous or not, and which kind of prominent snakes have a very deadly venom. Just have a look at it. If you've had interest in certain movies, you maybe also know, you would have heard about cobra snake, okay, different kind of snakes, okay, but just read about it, because when I talk about this in the species, right, especially the contemporary or more current affairs species, then I'll talk about this also. But if you've already done the hard work here, that will also help. So usko likh lo. One is the difference between venom and poison. Are all snakes having venom and poison? So these are the questions that you have to think in mind when you look this up. Okay. एक सेकेंड. See, prominent example may, when we talk about, we can talk about, nahi, हाँ, I don't think so. One of the prominent example for cold blooded will be, let's say, reptiles. ठीक है, even we can say amphibians. Okay, so all these are cold blooded, but again very specific. Again, I'll have a look exactly how where we classify. So again, we can have a look at that, right? But generally, तो मुश्किल है, because the most prominent examples for warm blooded are your birds and mammals. Okay, ठीक है. अच्छा, अभी we did not write the full part, so please write. Animals like snakes produce venom to immobilize prey. Pray. To immobilize, IMM, it means to make that prey stationary. Immobilize. Mobilize means to move. Immobilize is the opposite of mobilize. ठीक है? Immobilize prey. Full stop. Now, why did we do this hard work? I'll tell you the reason behind this. These three terms, physiological structure, are also in the class 12th NCERT, but in very just one line it is mentioned. So the idea is, now you have a comprehensive idea about what this is, what are the examples in a lot of different ecosystems. Okay? So now when you see something like this, okay, you can understand. Mimicry, you know what is mimicry? What is mimicry? Acha, isme, for example, I'm asking you, there are certain mimicry done by certain butterflies to again avoid getting killed. You would have also, of course, seen parrot karta mimicry. Why does parrot do mimicry? Parrot, who is killing the parrot if it does a bad mimicry? Just a question that came to my mind. I'm asking you. Hmm? So, yes, it's intelligent social, and that's a good point. The second thing is generally mimicry is done to save, okay? But in case of parrots are very social animals. In that sense, mimicry helps in the social function. That's it. So it does not have any particular survival value, okay? I think this part you have understood. Just have a look at these examples. इसमें is there any example that we have missed out? इसको भी आप अलग से ऐड कर सकते हो if you want. Storage of food in a bulb. That is why the bulbs are, if you've seen them, slightly bulged in shape, slightly difficult. Let's say, for example, have you seen the bulb in the case of onion? Okay, so just like that, a lot of plants you will see bulb-like shape, so they will store a lot of food in that bulb, right? कौन सा वाला? Plants. One second, there's a doubt. Chalo, ye doubt I'll also ask the class. The question is, where should we place bioluminescence? नहीं, fireflies etc. हाँ, सोचो, just have a look. हाँ, good. Physiological inside the body. इसमें I think I'll just tell you. अपर देखो इसमें because I've not taken up ecosystem. Actually, मैं इसमें aquatic. I also want to give you the example of aquatic. I think you asked me after the class. I think right. चलो इसको लिख लो, यहाँ पे लिख लो. मैं आपको if whatever I'm saying from aquatic, if you're not able to understand, I will again repeat that in aquatic. Okay, please write down the example of bioluminescence. हाँ, you remember the song Jugnu by Badsha? नहीं आते तो, but again I only wanted to tell you what Jugnu. Jugnu is firefly. It is glowing. Okay. Similarly, think about if we talk about certain species in aquatic ecosystems. There are certain images where you see the lake is glowing. Okay, with certain very good colors. Okay. Now that is happening because of again I have to tell you, it's because of a dinoflagellate species. The example of one of such species can be Noctiluca scintillans. ठीक है, पर अभी अगर ज्यादा टफ लग रहा है तो ये सारी चीजें एक्वेटिक इकोसिस्टम में आएंगी. इसीलिए अगेन या तो सिर्फ बायोल्यूमिनेसेंस लिखो, जस्ट राइट ऑन फायरफ्लाई एंड लीव अ कपल ऑफ स्पेस, and we will add, and not just this, I will even tell you bioluminescent fungus also. So bioluminescence across organisms we'll see, but bioluminescence is the simple property of glowing. Okay, so just write down example. अभी example बस लिख लो. Bio is bio तो आसान है, BIO. LUM Lumi, LUMI, NISCENCE, bioluminescence. One example is firefly, and examples always write point waste. Comma करके लिखोगे तो उसमें add नहीं कर पाओगे detail. Okay, so one is firefly. The second is, चलो mushrooms you can write. Mushrooms. Third you can write down Noctiluca, NOCTI Noctiluca space SCINTI LANS Noctiluca scintillans. Bracket में it is found in ocean ecosystem. Ocean or let's say some prominent oceans, उसके लिए भी we will have a look at, so वो part cover हो जाएगा, don't worry about that. In some part I will again talk about it. Noctiluca भी अगर ये लिख रखा है तो ठीक है. Let's talk and go back to this part here. Okay, firefly लिखा है. Firefly के साथ एक dash करके you can write down. अच्छा, you can write कि organisms produce light through a chemical reaction. They produce light through a chemical reaction. मतलब this is what is bioluminescence, right? Through a chemical reaction involving luciferin, इसको ब्रैकेट में लिखेंगे लाइट emitting molecule, and there is a similar enzyme luciferase. This is the enzyme, and this is the light emitting molecule. So there is a chemical reaction which happens, and because of this the light glows. And put a star for also for mushrooms. Throughout the lectures from now and even later on, we will see variety of mushrooms. If you have seen certain cooking videos, there is a very expensive mushroom but very nutritious. Can you tell me name? A lot of celebrities eat that. Very expensive mushroom. Let me see in the online. Very nutritious and expensive. Your answer is correct actually. It is Gucci mushroom, Gucci. And I think if I'm not wrong, I think almost 20,000-30,000 rupees per kg. So they were highly expensive, right? And by the way, this was also asked in the exam, by the way, about Gucci mushroom. Huh? And yes, you are. And you are also forgetting. Yeah, I think the Prime Minister also used to eat this mushroom so earlier. There can be multiple reasons for this. Okay. Fireflies लिखा है. You were also saying jellyfish. If you want, उसको भी लिख सकते हो example. Bioluminescence में jellyfish. Okay. चलो अब. Now you are done with the main part. Now we will see all major things that we have done. I will now classify them in these four heads. Okay, so these four heads are also there in certain classifications. Some of these things you already now know. Okay, so now we'll just quickly go through the slides. What are the new things that we have to understand? पहले मुझे बताओ, what are the types of adaptations? Just tell me types of adaptations. Structural or morphological. Second is behavioral. Third is physiological. Physiological, what are the examples? And just tell me what is physiological. Internal body mechanisms will be there, right? Then what is, for example, behavioral? Okay, right? Now, alag se, there can be some repetition here, but this is also a framework that is used. Ideally, the best framework for adaptation is these three. But again, in your NCERT, these four things are also in the same part also mentioned. So there is a slight overlap that you will see. First term is regulate. There is a term known as conform. There is a term known as migrate. There is a term known as suspend. This we have already seen, and we also know under which head this is going to fall. Okay. So I'll just quickly go through the other terms also so that you are aware, right? The first term is regulate. Okay. All the things that we have seen are talked about here. Okay. First term that you see is homeostasis. Stasis means stagnant, static. Okay. So homeostasis is a part. So there is now a new term we are seeing. Have you seen this term? Thermoregulation just now. Okay. So maintaining constancy of internal body. Okay. Either through physiological behavioral means. So constant body temperature. Who can do that? At least us, we can do that. Okay. Same thing that I told you. Summers, we are sweating. In winters we shiver. Okay, so first thing please write down is just this entire line. हाँ, ऑलरेडी थर्मोरेगुलेशन मैंने आपको अलग से प्रॉपर एक जगह पढ़ाया है, बट कभी कभार इन इफ somebody is loosely classifying it, they also mention this, but I always focus on this more. For me this is more organic in nature, but sometimes even these things are mentioned because see regulate can also be, I think thermoregulation I've already told you as an internal mechanism. Okay, but if we see regulate as a standalone point also, you should know what it means. Here please write down this term homeostasis, and this only this line you write, where we are focusing on, let's say, maintaining the constancy of internal body temperature. Okay, a term that you generally see is thermoregulation. And if when you've written this, then we will write this point also. We have seen success of mammals is largely because they have been able to maintain constant body temperature. And because the term mammals is mentioned, I have to ask you, even though we've not yet started that specific species lecture, what are mammals? Is that the best definition or the only definition? Can there be something else? Birth, etc. Let's say the snakes can also give birth. But let's say yesterday also we saw metronyms also laying eggs. We say them to be mammals.
They are feeding their offspring.
Is that the only definition? So abhi ke liye, of course, for us mammals will be slightly more technical, but we'll do that in an appropriate time. After I'm done with this section, I think I've not taken a couple of doubts in the comment section. I think one is related to roots. I'll just answer that. Let us just first complete this section. ये तो already we know ना, summer with this, so you know. If you just want summer sweat or winter shiver for your understanding, don't write complete lines so that you just remember. This is not required. This is one thing. This will help you understand. This is again important from evolution perspective. The success of mammals again we know is largely due to their ability to maintain a constant body temperature. Oh, 1 second. Yeah. Yes, Ritu, we have discussed that. Metronyms, so platypus and echinida are the exceptions. It is not just, let's say, only the mammary glands. There are more points. We'll see that. Sorry? हाँ अभी good point. Hairy body और भी है, ठीक है, ठीक. अभी उसको भूल जाओ. I've told you this is a separate point. We'll see. अब ये चीज है, but there's a very interesting graph. Okay, this is again you can understand NCERT से ही सीधे काटा है मैंने. This is something please draw, and then I'll make you write down the definitions of all the three terms: conformers, regulators, partial regulators. इसको you have to draw this. Homeostasis we know क्योंकि हमने in the previous slide we have written what is homeostasis. Here focus only on this and draw this very simply. And how to understand this? For example, you know what are regulators who are able to regulate the body temperature. So irrespective of what is happening externally, these are Zen, just like Buddha, nothing. Okay, they are very calm, composed. Whereas the conformer, please see what is exactly happening in the external level. Their internal level is keep on changing. But then there are some who are able to do this, but they are then able to regulate partially, only partially. So generally we think that the NCERT would not contain many very basic things, even very minute details. So here you'll see some of more, let's say, aspects of biology being asked. Okay. There are three terms: conformers, regulators, and partial regulators. So even when I tell you the definition, can you just understand in very simple terms from the graph based on what we discussed, what they mean? What are regulators? बताओ.
External changes के
कुछ भी, whatever happens, hot, cold, they will have their own temperature. And conformer is they are influenced by surroundings. Okay, they are influenced by surroundings. If you know this, this is exactly what you need to know. But for the sake of the exam, we will have a definition plus we will have some examples. Because in all these things, it is the examples that will stand out. Okay. So please write down the first point: conformers. Conformers. Again, I'll tell you again, where some people have a very conforming attitude. What is that? सुना है term?
balance attitude.
मतलब वो अपने आप को ढाल लेंगे पूरी सिचुएशन के हिसाब से. Okay, so they will always try to, but there are some who are very rebel. Whatever happens, I will be like myself only. Okay, so conforming, just for your reference, if you want to think like that also. So conformers, please write: organisms that change their internal condition, organisms that change their internal conditions in response to the environment. And again, this reminds me that have you practiced the MCQs of the first three classes? You also have the till now. I think it has been uploaded during the third class itself, live class. The link was shared. Acha, acha, okay. Have you seen the? Let me just confirm with online because I remember that day it was shared, and even very shortly, again the link will be shared online also. No, again I think if. Hmm? In response to the environment without independent regulation. Without independent regulation. To the environment without independent regulation. They cannot independently regulate the temperatures. It is dependent on the environment they are. They are dependent simply on the environment they are in. Okay. Examples, please write. Reptiles. Example: reptile. Bracket, let's say for your easy understanding, lizard. Any example you can add? So reptiles, lizard. Okay. Another example you can write. Let's say I can give you an example of marine invertebrate. Please write marine invertebrate. Again, example you can write is starfish. In case somebody is wondering what is this invertebrate, again there is a classification of organisms based on vertebra. Vertebra is the spine. The ones who have the spine are vertebrates. Then you have invertebrates. Vertebrates are divided into, sorry, again at least if I talk about, चलो ठीक है, इसको भी species में देखेंगे, but इसको भी vertebrates को for our easier understanding we can then classify them even in warm blooded. Then you will have animals, mammals, you can have birds. Cold blooded you can even have, let's say, reptiles, amphibians, fishes, etc. So this is a part of vertebrates. In the invertebrates, again the huge classification, okay, right from let's say arachnids to let's say crustaceans, the terms, some of the terms, nidaria, etc. ये सारा देखेंगे जब स्पीशीज स्टार्ट ही इससे होता है. ठीक है, तो अब अभी ये सब चल रही है, सब अभी स्पीशीज स्टार्ट भी नहीं हुआ जस्ट. Okay, don't worry. But see, classification, why are we discussing in the, I'll show you examples also when they're technical terms. इसको लगा देना आप एक सेकंड. अभी यूट्यूब पे तो अब जो हेलो 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 हम्म अच्छा ओके okay let us discuss in come 1 second the people online I think now you should be able to see this. Okay, great. There was a power cut, now we are back. So we were writing about conformers. I think one example that you wrote was invertebrate पे भी क्योंकि एक if you find time एक बार अपने आप से बस क्लासिफिकेशन देखना मैं पढ़ाऊंगा ठीक है when I start if you have done this let's say some effort at your end it will be even easier because again I am doing this because I have seen a couple of questions so you will see a lot of extra effort we are putting for some even 1 1 2 2 questions right but if you have done it at your end at least it will save time because again I cannot go into the whole biology part then it will be a totally different lecture okay but we will only just briefly touch upon the classification let's say all you need to know let's say for example if I say crustaceans just one example should come to your mind okay right crab okay now conformers we know so tell me who are conformers. So if I say the conformers are able to regulate their internal temperatures in winters, true or false? False. Why? In summers? Yeah. It is not season dependent. They are not able to do it. So their temperature is dependent on the outside world. Right? Now next example please write or next point write. Conformer we have seen. Then we will write regulators just like the second term is mentioned. So regulators are organisms that maintain a stable internal environment. Stable internal environment. Regardless of external conditions. Regardless of external conditions. Example, mammals and birds. Now, one thing extra I'll tell you, and this also will help you understand why some are able to do it and why some are not able to do it. First of all, you already know what is more beneficial to be able to regulate or to not be able to regulate. To be able to regulate, then just if you want to just think on the spot, why are they not able to regulate? Just think any point that comes to mind. और कुछ ठीक ठीक कोई बात नहीं और कुछ कोई पॉइंट एनीथिंग नहीं और कुछ everything here is law of thermodynamics anything we do for example right now you are writing notes those who are at least you are spending energy every effort that is done is spending energy so while the warm blooded animals are doing something great at least let's say evolutionary speaking it is extremely energy intensive and this amount of energy the other organisms cannot spend if they do it they will collapse or they will not be able to survive this is the main idea here okay and why am I telling you this concept because the next example again from the NCERT is going to make a lot of sense to you that why small animals are not found in polar regions again linked to the idea of energy okay so here for this specifically please write down for regulators please write regulators are highly adaptable to diverse environment regulators are highly adaptable to diverse environments however this is very energy intensive it takes up a lot of energy this is very energy intensive however this is highly energy intensive अब आप समझ रहे हो it is energy intensive So what this means, in other words, that they have to eat a lot. If they have to eat a lot, those ecosystems must have sufficient food for them. Okay, so here energy intensive में dash करके, which requires a high food intake, which requires high food intake to sustain the regulatory process. High food intake to sustain the process. High food intake to sustain the process. Did you miss out anything? Basic, the regulatory process. Okay. And the last one, please write down partial. Please write down partial regulators. यहाँ पे from the name itself you can understand that here there is an influence of environment. So they will, and after that then some part they are able to regulate. Okay. So here environment influence is there, here entire influences of the environment, here partial impact of the environment is there. But still, that said, can they do their regulation on their own? No, they cannot. Here also if you see, they are changing as per the environment, and then only after a certain point they are able to regulate. So it means these are also external dependent. Okay. So here we can write organisms which are influenced by the external environment, organisms that are influenced by external environment but can regulate their temperature to certain extent, but can regulate their temperature to certain extent. Example you can give is frogs, estuarine fish, which means fish which is found in estuaries. Estuarine fish. What is an estuary? Very good. We become experts, and this is found in, oh, this is an ecotone. Okay, right. So estuarine fish can be one example, and just one extra line you can write for estuarine fish. They partially regulate the internal salinity. They partially regulate the internal salinity to match fluctuating salt levels. Match fluctuating salt levels in estuaries. Salt levels in estuaries. Salt is not consistent. The moment more fresh water will come, again the composition will change. ठीक है? So when we say regulator, now you see this is a point I've talked about salinity. So regulation can also be temperature based, it can also be salinity based. That is why when I ended the previous class, I ended with two terms, urihaline and urithermal. Thermal means temperature, haline is salinity. Now can you make a change? So now then you can again write down, if you remember, if you want to remember terms, anything with thermal is temperature based, haline, H-A-L-I-N-E, is salinity based. Uri means you are able to withstand large changes in temperature, steno means very small changes in temperature. Urihaline and stenohaline and urithermal and stenothermal. This is something we saw in the previous class also. Just for reference, direct nahi hai, but this is again just for your reference so that you can also understand. This discussion is directly linked to what we had said, urihaline and stenohaline. एक और term है, please write. For conformers in big words, please write ectotherms. If you directly get a question, ectotherms can do this, you may not know who are ectotherms. Ecto means outside. Ectotherms are conformers. Endotherms are regulators. Endotherms, right? Right, yes. Okay. Now you give me very quickly what are the examples of endotherms? You tell me. Hmm? Piche at the back. Example of endotherms. Birds and mammals. Okay. Example of ectotherms. Or kuch? Amphibians, reptiles, all the terms that we've seen, right? Now, this is one line you can write. 99% of animals, this will tell you the magnitude of the problem. 99% of animals and nearly all plants, please note, cannot maintain constant internal environment. नहीं, माइग्रेशन इसके बाद वाला है ये. This is again continuation of conformers only, because we're talking of constant internal environment, right? If you read this line, now you will again understand that why changes in temperature or climate change can be very harmful. 99% of animals and nearly all plants, they cannot change. So that means these are examples of, all these are what? Ectotherms, okay? And then this is something you can understand, that thermoregulation is energetically expensive for many organisms. What this means?
Specific energy.
बहुत खाना पड़ेगा. Okay, it is just like you go to, if you go to work out, you sweat a lot, you feel very hungry. Okay, let's say you've done a lot of swimming sessions, gym sessions, you then eat a lot of food. If you don't do it, you lose a lot of protein in the body. Okay, you understand this? Okay, so thermoregulation, also write this line, thermoregulation is energetically expensive for many organisms. Thermoregulation is energetically expensive for many organisms. And then this is an interesting question. Why are small animals not found? So based on what we have discussed, why are they not found in polar regions? And again, why do you find, let's say, big polar bears? Why is that?
They don't have that layer below the skin.
They can't afford to spend that much of energy.
One very good point. And second, here everything is about the surface area. Let's say there is a small organism. Based on their small, let's say, dimensions, the surface area that is exposed is more. If it is a small organism, generally they eat less based on their size, let's say proportion wise. So the kind of energy they would have to spend in that ecosystem will be far higher than whatever they can consume. That is why they are not found. So nature or evolution has very smart ways of sustaining life. So that is why are big organisms found? So the kind of energy they lose out, they will, let's say, kill certain, let's say here penguins or so on and so forth, whatever is the diet. Based on that, they will have sufficient food to eat. And even though we know that in extremes of temperature, the bears, etc., will go for even hibernation. Okay, so now this term is extremely important. The things are, first of all, energetically expensive, and energy, how much it is expensive is a function of how much area is exposed. This also you can link to, remember, thorns instead of leaves. Okay, so you write this point also in bracket or as a head point. Heat loss and gain is a function of surface area, and then the last is, then this will easily help you understand that why are small animals not found in polar regions. Yes, very good point, Hansika. They don't have enough energy. Yes, and again overall the higher loss will happen. Yes, so higher surface area is exposed, so more, and commensurate energy is not available in the same proportion, so that is why you don't see that. So this is, will tell you that again nature or evolution has its own ways throughout time, right? this line of, you can understand, so small animals have largest surface area relative to their volume. So they will lose a lot of body heat very fast. And the same thing, to survive, at least to just survive, you have to have at least same. But to live and grow more, you need to have more consumption than that. They're not, this cannot happen consistently. That's the problem. Plus, bigger animals, we know carnivores, they have specialized claws, etc. Now you can imagine why is that. So at least the hunting is very efficient. If hunting takes a lot of time, they are already losing a lot of energy, they will also not be able to survive. So that is how things are designed in such manner. Okay. So at least the regulate term you are able to understand. In regulate, we see three terms: conformers, regulator, and partial regulators. Give you an example of partial regulator. Okay, frog can be one example. And again, we don't have to cram it, just see it a couple of times. Right now, your biggest takeaway is that example of regulator you should know. What is that? Mammals and birds. That is one. Other things will slowly and steadily come to your mind, but this is something we can understand. And how would you remember mammals? Where do we fall? Are we reptiles or birds or amphibians? We are amphibians, right?
Sorry, mama, sorry.
Okay. Okay. So again, sometimes if I say between the three options, the correct answer may not be even in one of the options. So of course we are mammals. Okay. Okay. Are we animals?
Yes.
Okay. So again, when you see the movie named Animal, it means it is about all of us. It is not only about a certain person. Okay. All of us are animal in that sense. Okay. Fine. So if I have to just tick this, we know. Regulate, conform, we know. Third also we know, but again I'll just quickly talk about it. Migrate. Okay. So here, this is an example. If you have not written, please write it again. Keoladev National Park, Bharatpur. I told you, Siberian crane visiting, for example. Siberian crane link, please make it. And here migration, while the images are birds, please, again I've told you, migration can be both all avian species, aquatic species, and also terrestrial. Terrestrial is, yes, land. So Siberian crane will remind you of what? Keoladev National Park. Now let me see how much you remember from the previous class. What we had linked, and you will have to stop. Okay, I'll have to see some other people. Do ही site है वाह. And what is the other one? What is the other one? एक second रुको. What is the other one? Iraviculam. You are very close. It is Loktak Lake of Manipur. Iraviculam is Kerala. Okay. So here what did we discuss? We talked about two things, right? So one is Keoladev, Bharatpur, and Loktak Lake. Both these two sites, these two are the only Ramsar sites to be a part of Montreal Record. And I think in two classes from now, I'll also tell you there's a term known as wetland. India has more than 500 wetlands. However, out of those, around 82 or odd something are Ramsar sites, which have gotten designation, for example. So we will not use, these two terms cannot be used interchangeably. Okay, so of course, out of this 82, all are wetlands, rest true, but only the ones that have gotten recognition are the Ramsar sites. And out of that, two sites, Keoladev from Bharatpur, Rajasthan, very famous wintering ground, number one. Second is Loktak Lake. Let's quickly recall from Loktak Lake. There's a dancing deer known as Elk's deer, the state animal of Manipur. Okay, there is Fumdis, the floating vegetation, and there is a Cable Lamja National Park. Right. Then there is a term known as Amur falcon. Okay, for this you can just write down Doyang Lake. Okay, these Amur falcons are certain rare sightings. Nagaland. Actually, I was going to say search it up, but on the spot ऐसा पूछते हो तो फिर बताना पड़ता है. I would generally want जो भी lakes है ना, that you should have a habit of seeing them. Chalo, Chichilka Lake, where is that? Chalo, very good. Sundarbans. Your friend spoke about Iravakulam National Park. I told you it is Kerala, but why was it famous for? For two things. Nilkurunji and Nilgiri Tar. Okay, good. Okay, fine. Doyang Lake, Nagaland. Okay.
साइबेरियन क्रेन तो चिलिका में भी आते हैं.
आ सकते हैं. Yes, yes, but very prominent in Keoladev. Now, a term. चलो एक चीज मैं I'll ask you and you should look it up. My question is, do the Siberian cranes visit the Keoladev now? इसका ये मतलब भी हो सकता है अब वो शायद नहीं आते हो या हो सकता आते हो. आई डोंट नो. ठीक है. हाँ अच्छा ओके. के बारे में अब देखो. अब आप दो एटलीस्ट 2 parts I've done, 2/3 of the work, 1/3 I'll give it to you. See, this is the lecture number 4, but again, jitne bhi whatever terms, number 1, places, you have to be very familiar with it. Okay, so slowly and steady, almost we will cover the entire map of India through our discussions only. Acha, and where are you people from? Just very quickly, you can tell. We have covered. Acha, Pinjore. Okay, you सबसे पीछे. अच्छा, we will talk about at least vulture, no, Gangetic dolphin conservation, Vikramshila, Bihar, we'll talk about. And people online also. So again, at least all your states we will cover very well. Not that we'll. Okay, is this clear? Okay. Now coming back to this, so migrate we have also seen. Now let us just understand this also. In suspend, we have already done in 3 terms. We've seen brumation, estivation, and hibernation. But suspend has a couple of more terms. What does suspend mean? Suspend means to suspend the metabolic activity. Why would the organisms do this? To conserve energy, right? And why conserving energy is important? To be able to survive, because many times the conditions will be extremely stressed. Okay. So when I say suspend, again now you can understand why a bear goes for hibernation. Okay, because they have to slow down the metabolic rate. In somebody's sense, you can say that generally if somebody is fasting, etc., so then they don't do a lot of physical activity, because then they're not taking up a lot of food, right? So in the similar manner, we'll see some cases of suspend. 3 things I've already told you in suspend. A couple of things extra I'll also tell you, right? So let's come to suspend now. Now, these 2 we have done. The other points that we are not aware, we'll just write. So one is formation of spores. Okay. So let's say in bacteria or fungus or some very small lower plants, there can be, let's say this is a small plant and there is a formation of spore on its outside. Okay. Think of this just as the outer cover. If there is any time there is an outer cover, for example, if we can wear a jacket, it's a protective layer, right? So if the harsh weather, wind conditions are there, this protective layer is going to help. So first point you will write thick walled spore formation. Thick walled spore formation. Bacteria, fungus and lower plants. Okay. And here the core idea is to suspend the metabolic activity to save energy. Now you understand why energy is so important as a unit. Okay. Second, dormancy. Have you heard the term dormant? We can say somebody is lying dormant or a particular thing is dormant. It means it's static, it has stopped in that area. Okay. Now dormancy is also seen in seeds, for example. So for example, if there's a seed that is there, it is dormant. Now if you want to really, let's say, plant it and then germinate it, something has to be done. But why is dormancy there in the seed, for example? It is again there to just survive. So if there is some harsh condition, okay, so dormancy is seen in plants as a simple mechanism of protecting themselves. That is dormancy. So the opposite of dormancy in English language or simple is one can be dormant or you can be active. Why are you dormant? So let's say you can do 10 things, but when you are dormant, you are only doing one thing. You're just simply conserving your energy. Very simple. Okay. So dormancy is simply the reduction of metabolic activity in higher plants. You have a lower plants and you have higher plants. Higher plants are the ones which have proper stem, leaves, roots developed. Okay. So there is a reduction of metabolic activity in stressful environment. And when I say stressful, now you have to tell me. I am saying stressful can be abiotic stress. There can also be biotic stress. Now, with example, please tell me both. How can there be abiotic stress?
टेम्परेचर हाई
Light
होगा
temperature.
नहीं, हाँ ठीक है. And biotic stress कैसे हो सकता है?
Consumer.
Very good. Simple. Herbivores. So they can be overgrazing because of herbivores. That is always going to be a persistent problem. Okay. So if the plant is there in a stressful environment, and in that case it wants to conserve the energy, we are talking of dormancy in that sense. So dormancy in case of higher plants, in case of lower plants or bacteria, fungus, very let's say small in terms, there is a formation of thick spore. Okay, a wall of spore. So these are the two terms that we have seen. Hibernation, again, we are not going to explain. We have seen that. If you want to add, you can add certain more examples. Okay, beer we have already done, bat and rodents.
The dormancy in plants, what exactly is it?
It is helping them reduce, for example, the metabolic activity. देखो dormancy जैसे कि कोई harsh condition है, जैसे I've told you. So the seed will not, or let's say the plant will not then start to germinate. It will wait for adequate conditions. So it will.
Aging of seeds ऐसा कुछ.
नहीं, not aging. See, इसमें क्या होगा? If they have to perform their full function, so they will have to have proper photosynthesis, evapotranspiration, सारे loss होंगे सब कुछ. यहाँ पे if they want to conserve or reduce, so their intake of water, all these processes have to be slowed down. ठीक है? तो in that sense, आप ये बोल सकते हो जो सीड है उसके ऊपर कोई कोटिंग है, इस केस में there is a proper coating, it will not start to do its main function. In the same case here also, most of the functions that we are saying, okay, either the regulation of water flow, nutrient flow, most of that will stop. That is the dormancy in plant. And sometimes when the stressful condition has gone away, sometimes we have to apply a chemical part to remove the dormancy, so that then the things become active. In fact, seeds ke liye, if there are dormant seeds that are there, so there are certain chemical solutions that you then apply, then the seed becomes active. Okay, by active then it means it can then now simply grow and resume. So this is again a part that is done to just simply conserve energy and to simply save them. Very simple. हाँ, stop करना. Yes. किसका? Dormancy normally of stressful conditions में this is seen. हाँ, हर में तो चलो अगर कोई अच्छा example I'll think and just tell you about this. हाँ. अच्छा, okay, and then मतलब you saying is it specific to no but
Is it an example of dormancy is asking? उस year में नहीं करा था maybe.
देखो इसका मैं आपको एक अच्छा एग्जांपल आई जस्ट टेल यू. फॉर एग्जांपल वी नो दैट फॉर एग्जांपल deciduous trees, they shed leaves in a particular time only. So why is that? For example, those are very stressful times. ठीक है? And उस times में the best thing that they can do is shed the leaves, so that again there is lesser stress on them. So here again what they're doing in that specific time. Otherwise, for evergreen trees, of course, they are found in areas where you have sufficient rainfall. So for deciduous, it is a very planned manner in which they are, let's say, shedding out the leaves. Okay. So one example can be that, or jo other, let's say when they have to bear fruit, they will only, let's say the fruit etc. part will only happen when sufficient resources are there. So generally the plant will become more active during monsoons. If there is a lesser monsoon, then also you will not see enough fruits etc. But if there is a proper monsoon, then only you will see that. So here things are dependent on resource availability. नहीं जरूरी नहीं, इट इज नॉट जस्ट सॉइल, बट इट इज अगेन सॉइल इज वन पार्ट, मेन रिसोर्स है, और रिसोर्स भी ऑल्सो डिपेंडेंट ऑन द एनवायरमेंटल स्ट्रेस. थिंक अबाउट दिस. देखो ये हम समझ गए एनवायरमेंटल स्ट्रेस. वी नो एबायोटिक में यू ओनली टॉक्ड अबाउट सॉइल, but it can also be temperature na, it can also be wind, it can also be rain. If it is a drought year, again you will not have, let's say if there's a very good yield, the yield will be half. So stressful means, because you already now know ki abiotic is not one, you let's say you spoke about soil, but there can be 7 more factors. plus more biotic factors. Yes. Are you able to understand this? Okay. Hibernation, just add the examples that you've missed out. Same for estivation. Brumation is also what we've understood. Okay. Fish, perhaps if you want, you can add. And then we move to diapause. Okay, diapause. Here, just if you see the term pause, if you see the term suspend, dormancy, are all similar kind of English words. Okay, so diapause is something that is seen in zooplankton species. So again, this is a topic I'll tell you in aquatic ecosystems, but just point for reference, I'll tell you. You have planktons. These are marine microscopic organisms. This is then divided to phytoplanktons. I told you what phyto means. What is photo? Light. Okay. So phyto. So phytoplanktons are just like the plants that you see in terrestrial. In terrestrial ecosystems, it is the plants who are primary producers. In aquatic ecosystems, it is phytoplanktons that are the primary producers. And phytoplanktons are eaten up by zooplankton. Okay. And then they can be eaten up by a small fish, then a big fish, then a whale. So in aquatic ecosystems, that is how the food chain will be. So here when the term zooplankton is written, okay, so remember zooplankton eats a phytoplankton. So it is, if you think, is zooplankton a primary producer? No. Okay. And more detail on this I'll cover in an appropriate part, that is aquatic ecosystems. That will then go in more detail. Okay. So here what is happening in diapause? Marine aquatic species, no, not animals. These are plants. Phytoplankton is a plant eaten up by a certain animal, which is a zooplankton, right? Zoo is animal. The moment you see the term zoo, biology and zoology. No, you said the term plankton. There are, within plankton there are two things. One is phytoplankton, and then you have zooplankton. Are animals and phyto is plant. Yes. इसको किसको? Phyto zoo. अच्छा, diapause में just आपको तो ये लिखना है stage of suspended development. That's it. This because the term is mentioned, I'm telling you, but of course ये चीजें हम और आगे देखेंगे. But अभी के लिए all you need to know, planktons are marine microscopic organisms. There are two types. One are your plants, but these are very small. What are these? Phytoplanktons, and then you have zooplanktons. Okay. So it's a stage of suspended development. Normal conditions you will have development. So here what is the term used? Suspended development. Suspended means some things have been stopped for some moment. And why would this be? Stressful environment. So while development is happening, but it is happening in very, very, very slow term. Okay? Able to understand? चलो, this is अभी के लिए तो ठीक है, आगे भी देखेंगे some of the prominent ones. More than that, let's have a look at. From at least 2 or 3 lectures, I have been talking again and again about plants and animals here. So can you see thick waxy skin? Large fleshy stem, spikes or thorns, widespread roots. Okay. Instead of shallow, it should have been more deep. So isko just bhul jao. These are widespread roots. Okay. And then let's say if I'm talking about camels, here there's a term mentioned, they have wide feet. Why? Yes, surface area. Yes. Otherwise, they would not be able to, because for walking, etc., you need friction, some friction available. So here, appropriate surface area you need. For that, wide feet are helpful. Okay. That is there. There's also one more. Acha, this was the image I was looking for. Remember, we have spoken about kangaroo rat. Okay. So here, again, this is an adaptation of animal. So what is happening here? Very concentrated urine. I think I also made you write this down. Okay. So what happens here? This is one line extra. Please write this down as a separate. You may have missed out. Sorry. दूर से the appearance is like that. Rats के ऐसे बहुत अलग अलग नाम है. Okay. So I don't know exactly why are they named. There may be some history or story to that. Sorry. No. This is overall as an example. So suspend we have done. Now I'm just showing you certain image. We are talking about adaptations. This is an image of adaptations, right? So this is now I'm just summarizing the entire topic through last a couple of images. So we have done this overall topic. Last के हाँ.
सर कंगारू रैट सबसे छोटा रैट है.
Again ये भी देखना पड़ेगा. मतलब of course very small, but rat में भी सबसे छोटा है कि नहीं? It is a very factual kind of a detail. So I'm not aware of that. Now some of these examples. Now in the NCERT, what they've just mentioned, just this kangaroo rat. But you may not be able to think and what to read about it. So this is the more information in a proper structured manner. In the previous class also I think I spoke about these kangaroo rats, right? हाँ, अच्छा. नहीं सॉरी जिनके
स्नेक होता है उसके पीछे कुछ होता है जो भी पॉइंट.
अच्छा.
यहाँ कर दिया ना. कलर भी चेंज जैसे भी होता है. यस ये होता है ब्लैक पीस होता है.
I'll say, but I don't have much knowledge about that. मतलब from this very detailed perspective, वो देखना पड़ेगा. I'll have to see once. These questions just keep in your mind. After the class again, I'll just write down some of these questions. Online भी और यहाँ पे भी. So for some of them, I think एक दो relevant questions थे, तो at least उस पे भी justification in the next tomorrow's class I'll give you. ठीक है. Now this also term is mentioned. This is Allen's rule. Let me explain what this is. Now if you're seeing in the Arctic region an animal is found, and normally it is found in, let's say, tropical region. In Arctic region, if you see the size of ear, this is tropical regions, this is Arctic. Where do you see the ears to be shorter? Arctic. Now based on your knowledge, can you tell me why Arctic people have yes? If there is more surface area that is exposed, more heat is going to be dissipated to then again minimize on that. So this is nothing but known as Allen's rule, which says animals in cold climate usually have minimum of exposed surface area, which can be short legs, short tails, short ears. So this also just one extra line you can write. हाँ देखो अभी just remember, why are small species not found in polar regions? So surface area is, if more surface area is exposed, let's say, relative to their volume, more heat will be dissipated. So in many cases what will happen, they will not have enough, let's say, food to eat. In this case also, if their let's say ear were as big as, so they will lose more heat. Already in the cold conditions, to survive is a big challenge, so they will normally need more energy. So this is just an adaptation that is there. They will have shorter ears when compared to their normal counterparts. Okay, and iske liye just I'll just give you one example. For example, we have two tigers. Okay, two bhai and brother tigers. One tiger we go and set it up in Siberia, and other we put it here. And after some generations, not in the immediate generations, there will be certain different attributes that will happen. Okay, and then there is a term for this. We will see it later. That when there are some changes that happen on the outside, but then after generations there are certain changes that happen in the inside. So I'll talk about phenotypic and genotypical changes. Abhi, I think most probably tomorrow. So this is also something that we'll understand. Okay, so here just one line you have to write about the Allen's rule. That's all. Okay. Sorry. Yes. Okay. Short legs, short tails, short ears. That's it. Achha, sorry. Okay. Now please attempt this question before we move forward. This is a UPSC previous year question. Take your time. People online also read it very carefully and then try to answer. Done? Acha. If you are done, you can mention what is the answer to this question. I'll start with somebody in the back. सबसे पीछे आंसर क्या है इसका? देखा ही नहीं अभी, चलो कोई बात नहीं, अभी अब टाइम देंगे. Debashish, what will be your answer? 3 मतलब 3 only. How many agree with him? कोई भी नहीं, क्या बात है? What is your answer? What is your answer? Khushi? 3. What is your answer?
2 and 3.
2 and 3. Okay. Let me see the answers in online. Okay. 4, 4, 4. Okay. So देखते हैं. You want to answer? 3 only. Chalo. Let's start with 2, 3 people saying 3 only. How did you arrive at it?
Leaves में होते thorns होते हैं. Last one right है.
अच्छा.
First one hard नहीं होते, fleshy होते. And waxy leaf.
अब देखो, I had also told you that generally your knowledge about desert plants is only you think about cactus. I just not told you Optunia and then Khejri. So up when you see other, the point is it is written tiny leaves. Tiny is perspective based. Okay, what can be tiny for you and somebody else?
Tiny. Small leaf.
Sorry?
Small leaf, tiny leaf.
Okay, so यहाँ पे tiny, just for your reference, if somebody आपने tiny देख के eliminate किया, tiny can be this small also. Okay, so tiny here is true, and again I'm saying your knowledge is going to be based on no, your knowledge is going to be based on other varieties. So tiny leaves is true, and idea of tiny leaves is just to reduce evapotranspiration. Is that clear? ठीक है? That is one. Second is, for example, if we talk about hard and waxy leaf, this is also seen. Hard leaves and waxy leaves is also seen. This is also true. Plus देखो अब इसमें क्या है? When you go, if you already know waxy, okay, and again when you see hard, if you have a very compelling evidence that hard leaves cannot be the answer, then only eliminate it. Otherwise waxy, if you already know, then you have to at least don't outrightly eliminate. That is again, this is how we will understand. In some cases, yes, it can also happen that only one part of the statement is correct, other part is false. If you're sure about it, of course eliminate. But in this case, again, if you're not aware, at least think about it. Or you should have said, sir, I have a confusion, I'm not sure about this, but at least these two I'm 100% sure. Okay, so 2 and 3 should be the answer. But then why was your answer only this? अच्छा आपने इसको भी tiny eliminate किया. क्योंकि देखो, if you talk about thorns, let's say if this is a thorn, this can almost be like a tiny leaf. But इसीलिए मैं I'm saying it is not just cactus. If you see khejri trees proper, they will have tiny small leaves. Similarly, Optunia and other desert plants. Okay, that is true. Thorns instead of leaves also. So in this question, if somebody says, "Acha, if there are thorns," somebody can also say, "Arey thorns hai, to leaves क्यों होंगी?" Eliminate it, and you then think about something else, right? But the point is, you have to talk about overall leaf modification in desert areas, which means there will be a lot of different varieties in desert areas. Is this fine? That is how the part is. The answer here is 1, 2, and 3. All the 3 are correct. Okay? So again, this will again reinforce that you have to go back and just have a look at some of these varieties. And that is why sometimes the questions on environment will be challenging, because every question is almost pushing you to let's just look beyond. So even if you follow any source here, again I would say whatever you are reading, try to be slightly more inquisitive. Again, at least in this class, I can always say that you people are asking the right questions, and there is no wrong question also. Try to ask any fundamental why this is happening, why this is not happening, why this. The point is, then you will think. And sometimes it is the process that you've gone through that will make a lot of difference. Because finally, again, nobody knows those 18, 20 questions that will be there. And many times these questions are very convoluted. So one approach is directly, let's say you see a comparison, you just try to cram it. Then your thinking faculties are not applied. So in many questions, for example, I'm saying if we see about a venom, a general perspective, initially I also felt that venom will always be poisonous. But now I asked you to see whether all the venoms are poisonous, whether all snakes are poisonous, etc. So that will also, acha, this is also possible. So again, when there is an emerging issue, and that is again, this is an approach you have to develop not only for environment, but I would say this will also help you, let's say, ace a lot of sub-subjects. Just if you just think like a normal person, if you have were to explain, acha, this is the power, okay, this is happening, why this is wrong, why this is not, then you will remember it better as opposed to cramming. Cramming should be the last resort. That when you don't have any option and then cram, 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 because the negative of cramming is just after the exam you will forget everything. It never is a part of your long-term memory. So not very helpful. Okay. Okay. We'll see these terms abhi. Okay. ठीक है. What is the time abhi right now? Okay. ठीक है. We have certain time. Okay. So what I'll do, I'll move to another topic. Here, this topic I'll cover up in one particular part. There is another interesting small topic that we can take up. Or just write down one last heading in this topic before we end this. Write down the heading ecological amplitude. Ecological amplitude. AMPLITUDE. Ecological amplitude. नहीं, बस इसकी एक definition लिखनी है. The definition for this is just this first line. अभी सिर्फ ये देखना. These three terms tomorrow we'll discuss. Ecophene, ecotype. There is another concept I have to tell you. Then you'll understand this better. अभी के लिए सिर्फ you write this down. Ecological amplitude. It is simply the range of temperature which a species can tolerate. Just this line, it is the range of temperature which a species can tolerate. Right? Range within which it can tolerate the ecological changes. That is the only definition that you have to write here. Okay. Second, in this topic only. Okay. Next is draw this diagram very quickly and leave some space. And this is again something, almost everything that we have covered. We have seen competition, predation, okay, and we are linking this to climate change. So in a moment you will see how climate change is impacting the species.
Ecological amplitude to sir buffering capacity भी बोल सकते हैं.
बफरिंग कैपेसिटी जनरली हम बात करते हैं अर्थ की, यहाँ पे स्पीशीज स्पेसिफिक की बात कर रहे हैं. तो व्हाट चेंजेस विल बी, लेट्स से, टेकन अप बाय द स्पीशीज इन व्हाट रेंज. एंड यू आल्सो नो देयर आर सम स्पीशीज दैट हैव अ वेरी स्मॉल रेंज. व्हाट डू यू कॉल देम? एक्टोथर्म्स. दोज हु हैव बिगर रेंज, यू आर एंडोथर्म्स. एंडोथर्म का एग्जांपल आप बताओ. बस ठीक, गुड, ठीक. So here main thing should be climate change. If you want to write this you can, otherwise only these heads: habitat, availability, prey quality, predation, competition, disease, other threats. And in this diagram I think there is one term you have not known till now, is this. Abhi ke liye likh lo, I'll tell you what this means. This is again going to overall consolidate in practical terms abiotic factors and adaptations overall in the context of climate change. और इस तरह का डायग्राम अगर आपने मेंस में बनाया, if there is a relevant question, this is going to fetch you extra marks. You don't have to exactly remember everything, because to draw this also will need certain skill on the exam, but this will help you think that there are so many factors who are dependent. Okay, so we are talking about climate change. In climate change, we know the temperatures, for example, globally are increasing. ocean pH is becoming more acidic. Okay, sea level rise is happening. Precipitation, which means rainfall, is very variable. Sometimes high, sometimes low. High causes floods, otherwise droughts. And similarly, the ocean circulation, the movement of the ocean currents is also changing because of climate change. Okay, how and this will do. So for species, the abundance of species, it simply means whether species will be more or less is impacted. Distribution of species, now because of climate change and these interactions, species, let's say if they are found in a big area, and because now the temperature is increasing, they will restrict their habitat. Okay, so let's say, remember we say permafrost, Arctic regions, now these regions will start to melt. So the species who have adapted to the regions, maybe they have to migrate. Now you will understand what migration is. Then there is a term known as phenology. Abhi chalo, you keep on writing also and just listen to me. Phenology is related to, when I say species, more specific to, let's say, plants, is when the flowering, when the leaf fall, when the fruiting will happen. This is known as phenology. It is just like the calendar for, let's say, the plant species. So at what time, what activity will happen? After you have written, I'll just give you one line definition of phenology also. Reproductive success. So again, appropriate things have to happen, then only this can be, and this is linked to their survival and genetic diversity. We want to have as much as genetic diversity as possible. इतने factors हैं. इससे क्या होगा? First of all, your vocabulary will also develop from the very start. Generally, what happens? हो सकता है you know these terms, but you are not able to think and express it. That abundance can also be a factor, distribution can also be a factor. Now, what is happening because of climate change? Competition will increase between the species, right? There is going to be predation already ho raha hai, but again, if the resources are limited, predation pressures will also increase. Okay, the prey quality and availability is a huge factor. Let me explain. For example, because of climate change, let's say the population of prey reduces. This can also mean after certain years, the population of predator may also decline. For this, a term is also used. This is known as co-extinction. This term we will see in the third unit, that is biodiversity. Co-extinction means if prey will get extinct, kuch samay baad predator will also get, and this also shows to you in environment everything is interconnected. Okay, habitat quality and availability, and here you can also think of human interventions. Okay, that we have, there is a degradation or destruction of animal habitat, species habitat. We want to create more new societies, we want to have more agriculture, you will cut down the forests, the natural areas. If the habitat quality availability is less, the prey will also be less. More competition, more struggles of predation. So abundance of species, will this be impacted or not? Okay, then diseases also. Now because of climate change, in the tropical countries there are more vector borne diseases. What is a vector? It's just a vehicle, it's a carrier. Okay, so you will see more outbreak of certain, let's say malaria or certain outbreaks, more diseases. If there are more diseases, the species will be impacted, more deaths, and this will again impact all these things, survival, genetic diversity. If only few species are surviving, less options to mate, which means diversity will be less. Otherwise, if there is many species that are present, you will have more diversity. In an ecosystem, it is always better to have more diversity. Okay, and of course there can be certain other threats, okay, based on, let's say, human induced factors. Okay, urbanization, etc. This हाँ, prey quality का मतलब देखो, चलो इसको हम, I will just tell you in this manner. For example, if somebody has to buy eggs, okay, there are different quality of eggs also. Okay, and of course based on that the nutrition will also be different. Similarly, let's say for an animal, let's say if a lion is going to eat a deer, prey quality is one deer is very weak and one deer is proper very strong. So what is better for this? Strong one. Okay, but the strong one is also dependent on how much grass is available. So prey quality, one is prey numbers. For numbers we also understand, but quality is also dependent on the resources available. So this also is directly linked to climate change and the impact of humans also. So at the very first thing can happen that numbers of deers may be same, but they may be very, let's say, weak deers. Weak deers will also mean the, let's say, the predation, the predator is not getting enough resources. So slowly and steadily you will see a collapse in the ecosystem. That is the whole idea. Second thing of prey quality, that they may also get contaminated, infected. We already saw cattle was infected or let's say put with diclofenac. Who impacted? Who was impacted? Vulture. So prey quality, initially there was no breeding or there was no artificial thing that was done. Now so many things are changed, right or no? Additionally, if they ingest something, either a plastic or any poisonous leaching toxic metal, even that can be dangerous for the predator. Okay. And why are these things becoming a problem? Because the pressure on the resource is increasing many times. That's the whole idea. And human made be a plus, or this stress of climate change is a new factor. Is this clear? This was just to open your mind more on these fronts. And here also don't try to कि rectify मेरे को हर एक चीज लिखनी है, organically सोचेंगे. हो सकता है you may miss out a couple of points. Okay, but that is the whole idea. Phenology, do you want to write the definition or you've understood? You can write. अच्छा फिर लिख लो. Phenology refers to the time, okay, time of leaf fall, flowering, fruiting,
Time of
leaf fall, flowering, fruiting, germination, full stop. It helps in better, या फिर the knowledge of phenology helps in better management of plants and trees. Because if we exactly know when is the leaf fall, when is the flowering, fruiting, and we can plan accordingly, of course you can now understand how this will be helpful. Okay. Okay. Now please answer this question. This is something we've already covered, and this will help me segue into the next section. Only just tell me the answer if you know the answer. सबसे पीछे एक्स्ट्रा स्ट्रेस आप ट्राई करोगे, ठीक है. फोर्थ, ठीक है. आप सेकंड, आप थर्ड, और फर्स्ट बस मैं वेट कर रहा हूं. आई जस्ट वांट, आई हैड 3 आंसर्स. I just want 4. I'll feel very happy. Everything. This is inclusive. Nobody is left out. Here also in, I think Shubham. Okay, so at least one person has sent 1. So I'm happy about this. Acha, I think that was for the previous question. I suppose. Okay. Some of you are saying 2. Okay. Now let's see. Lichens, which are capable of initiating ecological succession. So we are now going to talk about a topic known as ecological succession. Even on a bare rock, it means that even soil has not developed here. They are a symbiotic association. We've read the symbiotic association part, okay, between, and that is why I told you these terms are very confusing if you do not know. Everything same, sir, sab kuch to same lag raha hai. I can choose any of them. For me everything is right. Algae is same as bacteria, bacteria is same as fungus, fungus is same as mosses. सब कुछ same ही तो है. How do I know the difference? Okay, the right answer is ये. कब, कौन सी बुक में? एक हुई, आप थिंक आपने कभी और पढ़ा होगा 50-60 हजार साल पहले. Now see, and this is actually very fundamental doubt, because we are not generally aware about microorganisms. Okay, so here I will expect you to make doubts. Those who have gotten correct, maybe you have read your notes well, but you can have a confusion here. ठीक है, सही आंसर है algae and fungus. Again, in the later part, I will tell you exactly. I remember, I think I told you that first write lichens and then write mosses. याद आ रहा है कुछ? Mosses, if I talk about, and if I compare them with, let's say, algae, for example, algae is undifferentiated. Mosses will have some appearance of leaves or roots or stem. ठीक है? तो अभी इसके लिए again I have to explain the whole plant वाला part. अभी फिर रुक जाओ इसको. तो otherwise again I'll have to tell you cryptogams क्या होते हैं, phanerogams क्या होते हैं. That very बहुत छोटा सा classification है, but this is again a part you will understand better when we will see the differences between lichens, algae, mosses, and even ferns. We also saw a term known as ferns, ferns, right? So that is again a part, but abhi ke liye just remember, of course, that this is algae and fungus. It is not a bacteria. It is also not a virus, by the way. Virus का नहीं होगा symbiotic association, because then it will be a why can a virus have a parasitic association? Can virus have a decomposer association? नहीं, है ना? So here the best answer is algae and fungus, and we had also discussed how both of them help each other. Okay, so that is there. Mosses you will understand, and if you just want to know overall, for example, if I say algae just is undifferentiated. You can just think about this at this is kind of an algae. Okay, lichens is algae plus fungus. Moss is slightly more differentiated. Ferns is even more differentiated. By differentiated means, for example, there is a small cell and now it is going to start to take certain root or some form will start to appear. So algae in that sense is the most undifferentiated. Moss is slightly more differentiated and this is slightly more differentiated. In coming classes, I will even give technical terms to these three terms. Okay. किसके? कैसे? सॉरी, नहीं होते इसमें भी देखो आगे अभी आई डोंट वांट टू कॉम्प्लिकेट दिस फर्दर. We will talk about thallophytes, bryophytes and pteridophytes. This is actually a classification. In that we talk about. तो अभी के लिए just worry what you said. अभी के लिए the lichens we know these are the symbiotic association between algae and fungus. Algae which is more differentiated is again of course in that particular classification we talk about as mosses, and then a more differentiated part is ferns. अभी के लिए इतना काफी है, ठीक है. आगे proper terms में we will get to know. But again, my idea is always to expose you with slightly higher difficulty, then more difficulty, then more. So slowly and steadily, by the time you actually see it, फिर लगेगा ये तो पता ही था ना. But if I just tell you in that particular part, then you will be almost bombed. ठीक है, जो शायद अभी हल्की सी feel आई हो. ठीक है. So I cannot understand and anticipate that kind of feeling. So don't worry, we'll see that. Okay. Now let's start a very small topic, and we'll end this topic in this class itself. The topic is ecological succession. Okay. This is a small topic because this topic here only I have to tell you what is ecological succession, what is the types, what are the stages, and what is the consequence. Only 4 things we have to know. Okay. Sorry, वो खत्म, अब नया टॉपिक है. This is a new topic, ecological succession. अभी डाउट है? सॉरी, डाउट क्या था? अच्छा, अभी दिस इज द नेक्स्ट टॉपिक, climate change and the impact that you are able to understand. We move to this part here because again now the impact is happening. One second. इसको पर what should I do? इसको just open. ये खुल जाएगा. Oh wow, nice. Mama, I generally start with an open. ठीक है, तो अच्छा है. Now please see. So we have understood abiotic factors, adaptations, and then finally the impact of climate change that this can have. Again, I have not covered or even touched climate change till now, but this is just to make your base. The second topic that now we are doing is ecological succession, right? अब lichens की बात हमने करी and we see forest. Now in a very short span we will just see from a lichen or even from a bare rock, how do you see a forest? That is the main object of discussion. That what happens, there are certain stages in between that this ultimately leads to. Okay, so in this you just need to know this framework. Okay, let's say we are talking of or discussing this ecological succession. So first of course you need to know what this is, a basic definition. Okay, the types, stages and the significance. Very simple. Ecological succession is just, succession is what I told you, like for example there is a king number 1, king number 2, 3, 4, 5, there is a whole kingdom. Okay, in this case it is the journey which starts with a bare rock and ultimately culminates into a proper forest. There is a proper journey, it takes many years to happen. So this is the environmental journey that we will cover. Okay, and this also happens to be a very core part of environment. So we are talking of ecological succession. Okay, so here there are going to be certain stages. We will start at the very basic. इसके लिए I'll just show you one image and then things will make, we will understand this very better. देखो, 1 सेकेंड, चलो अभी ठीक है। वॉट हमने क्या लिखा था? ठीक है ठीक है ठीक है। तो इसमें आई थिंक द इमेज विच आई जस्ट वांटेड टू शो यू, चलो ठीक आ गया। हाँ, you start with a bare rock. Let's say you have lichen. Abhi we just saw a question on lichens. Then you move to plants, you move to grasses, you move to then more part, more vegetation, and finally you have climax community. ठीक है? तो अब यहाँ पे this is the entire range we want to discuss. It's a very easy topic. Okay? And in that, have you seen this term? अब याद आ रहा है? Pioneer species कर चुके थे. Pioneer species are the first to invade the area. We wrote lichens. Okay? So this is what we're going to do. That the journey which starts from here and it culminates, it has stages also in between. There will be some steps in between. This is all we want to know. So please write down the definition here. Okay. Succession is a series of progressive changes that in the composition, it is a series of progressive changes in composition of a biological or ecological community over a period of time. Ashutosh, the difference between which? The difference actually, if you're referring to, let's say, mosses or ferns, etc., this is again a part I will discuss when I start plant. Right now, I can explain that, but things will not make much sense to you. Because for that, I have to tell you what are cryptogams, what are phanerogams, and then we will move to thallophytes, bryophytes, pteridophytes. So, एकदम से थोड़ा सा ज़्यादा हो जाएगा अभी के लिए. If that is the only point of doubt, but I just had explained to you in one line in terms of differentiation that we can see visually also. Okay, have you written this? Okay. If this is clear to you, now what we are just seeing is this is how the progression happens, right? Now there's a term we have to talk about, types of ecological succession. Okay, so very first type is important. This is based on whether the vegetation etc. is available or not. Here we divide this into primary succession, secondary. This is the most important. So just to explain this to you, if the vegetation is not present, then this is known as primary succession, which means here, do you see any vegetation? Nahi. Ekdam scratch se life will start. Everything will start with the very new fresh slate. But secondary succession is one where vegetation already was present, but there was a forest fire, there was a volcano eruption, there was an earthquake, there was some accidental fire. Sometimes people go out in the forest for camping. They may use a cigarette, a BD, and whatever. And by the way, BD is also one of the very big reasons for forest fires. Okay, very well documented in the FSI's report. Okay, the cigarette butts, etc., leading to some of the forest fires. These are accidental forest fires. So here the vegetation was already existing. So that means certain root structures, soil structures were there, but it got wiped out. Now when the succession starts, then this is secondary succession. You can think about it in your study terms. Some of you are pure freshers. For you, it will take a lot of time to study. Now, somebody has already studied it, they just want to revise. Okay, they are more veteran than. For them, it can be secondary succession. Okay, this is a simple way to understand. Okay, so based on the vegetation, you can be primary or secondary. Now, same thing I'll show you through image. This is primary succession. You started with nothing. It is a bare rock. This is secondary succession. You already had trees. There was a fire. Slowly, steadily, everything wiped out, but still soil, etc. is there. Okay. So when time is given, this will start to again come. Okay. Now, the very first thing to note here is that in this case, you have to tell me which will take more time, primary succession or secondary succession. Primary, again, same thing. If you read, let's say, Lakshmikant for the first time, it may take 3 months. But somebody who's already done it, if they have to revise or read again, maybe 1.5 months, 1 month, just for an example. So in the same manner, why? Because here nothing is available. It will take a lot of time. That is first, this is the major point of difference, okay, that you need to understand. Then, based on the initiating agent, it is also divided into autogenic succession and allogenic. You can keep making this down, you just like we had done for the previous topic, because this is your consolidation. I'll also tell you, and we'll write down, but consolidation you should have with you, okay. Then, based on the availability of water, we can also divide this. You can have hydrarch, mesarch, xerarch. Hydrarch, hydra means water. Hydrarch succession happens when there is abundant water. Xerarch happens when there is very limited water. Okay. Whenever you see this term xer, XCR, think we are talking about certain desert or arid condition. In these, for example, xerocoals are the kind of animals. Xerocoals, I think, if you can just check the spelling once. These will be the kind of species found in such arid regions. So the moment you see XER, your mind should say, "Acha, this is related to deserts." Okay. Or not exactly desert, but sometimes even just in arid regions. Not every arid region will be a desert. Okay. And what is mesarch? How many of you know Buddha's golden mean? Madhyam marg. Not too extreme. Okay. Yes. So this is in between. Not too much of water, not too less of water, but appropriate amount of water is mesarch succession. Okay.
Hydrarch is aquatic.
Aquatic, and here you have abundant water. That is the main idea. Okay. And I'll also do one thing because tomorrow would be at least this week's last class. Okay, so what I'll also do, I'll also share my contact number, especially for online students, because again, the offline you are easily able to reach out and ask your doubts. For online, if you have any doubts related to the class, you can just drop me a message. I'll quickly reply back. Okay. Sorry. हाँ तो what did I say? अभी रुक जाओ, अभी वो हाँ इस week का. Yes. ठीक है. Then there is also autogenic and there is allogenic succession. ठीक है. Autogenic succession is basically when the succession is brought about by the communities in that ecosystem. Allogenic means some other factors, be it some wind, fire, or some other elements who bring about the succession. So that is just another part. But out of this all terms, the most important conceptual understanding is primary and secondary for us. Is that clear? Sorry? हाँ, ठीक है. So we know what are types of succession. अभी के लिए और एक और चीज है, when the succession happens, there is a term that is known as pioneer species. This is very important understanding. Second thing is intermediate species. Now, during the process of succession, there will be many stages in between. These stages are known as series. These are the intermediate stages, but these are not the final stage. Here, the final stage, the most stable stage, is known as climax community. So it is when the final mature forest happens, we say that to be the climax community, which means after this, there is no further stage. So the forests which are the most evolved, finally mature ones you are seeing right now, though these are the forest, these are the climax community. Okay. So you after climax community, and this is the most stable stage. You don't see anything else. Now, in a succession, when these things are happening, you would want the climax community to be as diverse as possible in terms of biodiversity. If it is very much diverse, it is less prone to insect attacks. If it is not diverse, if there is only a very simple insect attack, the entire the community may get lost or killed or wiped out. Okay. So here ultimately the idea is that it should be stable. How can it be stable? If it is more diverse in nature. That is how evolutionary the things are designed. This is the very simple process of ecological succession. So you have a definition of ecological, you have types, there are stages that are there in between, and finally there are consequences. Of course, this is generally because you are moving towards more stability, right? So this particular development is more desirable in nature, okay, and that is what is seen overall. All right, fine. So have you written the basic definition here? Okay. Second point, please write down, is this. You will write succession is directional. It means there is a direction. Types नहीं, types तो अभी मैं लिखवाऊंगा. अभी I think you've just written down overall what is ecological succession. जो mind map बनाया है types का, उसको भी हम fill करेंगे थोड़ी सी देर में. I'll make you dictation. But second, please write down. Succession is. हाँ अभी yes. अभी आ रहा है, चलो I'll just clarify that difference to you. So अभी के लिए you can write the second point. Succession is directional. There are different stages in a particular habitat. Okay. And these stages, main keyword that you don't want to miss out is series. Okay. Sifs only you have to write till series. This is point I'll again tell you how to write it so that you don't have to get confused. If you're done, just let me know. Agar ye process, if you're able to include and do. इसके बाद एक छोटा सा हेडिंग लिखो. अब देखो, stages I will tell you in two ways. First, there is a broad classification. You have a pioneer stage, you have several stages, series matlab several stage, and finally a climax community. That is a broad classification, but there is even a more small micro classification जिसमें न्यूडेशन, इकेसिस, कुछ और टर्म्स आते हैं. पहले लिखो, इसलिए ब्रॉड लिखो, या तो ब्रॉड stages of ES, which is ecological succession. The broad stages of ecological succession. Okay, so number one is pioneer species. Here just one line. The first organisms like lichens, put a star. Or the dash पे, the first organisms like lichens and mosses to colonize the area. Second is intermediate stages. Here we'll write overall these are stages only. जो pioneer species is the first stage. Second stage is having a lot of intermediate species. Just keep this diagram and you'll understand. इसी को ही explain कर रहा हूं मैं. Okay, so we'll write intermediate stages. और species भी लिखोगे, that's not a problem. Okay, intermediate stage. So we'll just write grasses, shrubs, and small trees grow. Grasses, shrubs, and small trees grow in the region. And third is climax community. Climax community. Here we will talk about a stable, mature. This is the final stage. Okay, so we'll write a stable, mature community. A stable, mature community like forests, is formed. And you have to write this line, the last line now. Succession will not go any further. इसी का point है. Succession will not go any further than the climax community. This is the final stage. Succession will not go any further than the climax community. This is the final stage. ठीक है, अब आते हैं वापस इस चीज पे. Now write, we've drawn a diagram of types. Now we will write this in two lines each so that you know. उसमें भी for us the main focus is this. Okay. So first please write down primary succession. अलग से जरूरी नहीं डायग्राम फिर से बनाना होगा, बनाया तो ठीक है, अभी के लिए दिस इज ओनली द राइटिंग पार्ट आई एम टेलिंग यू. इफ यू ऑलरेडी डॉन इट एक्सीलेंट, इवन इफ यू नॉट ड्रॉन इट based on the dictation etc, you can still draw it later on. This is only for consolidation and understanding. Okay, so here first thing, it starts in lifeless areas. It starts in lifeless areas where no soil exists, such as bare rocks, comma, lava flows, bare rocks, lava flows, or areas left by retreating glaciers, In this point, write a sub point. Yes, sub heading likho. Sub heading is process. So first we have defined what this is. In very simple words, we'll write what is actually happening here. So sub heading is process. Within process, we will write begins with pioneer species like lichens and mosses. It begins with the pioneer species like lichens and mosses, which break down rocks to form layer of soil. तो इसका मतलब the soil was not existing. The lichens and mosses, they will work upon this, let's say, yes, and break it down, and then the soil will form.
Breakdown.
So begins with the pioneer species of lichens and mosses, which break down rocks to form the first layer of soil. Right? Next is gradually grasses, shrubs, lead to the establishment of climax community. Okay. Second is secondary succession. So put a dash, but इसमें भी just short form लिख सकते हो. You can write the full form later. It occurs in areas, secondary succession, and after you are done with both definitions, have a space and draw something like this later on in your notes. कुछ space छोड़ सकते हो. Visually 1 second में समझ में आ जाएगा. Okay. This diagram is also easily searchable. Just type primary succession, you will get this. Okay. So in secondary, we are writing occurs in areas where life previously existed but has been disturbed. So life was existing previously but has been disturbed. leaving the soil intact. It means here soil is already there, and because soil is already there, this will take less time, right? उसमें soil बनाने में बहुत time लगेगा. They have to work a lot, and then the layers of soil will start to happen and form. Yes, there is a class tomorrow. The timings are different. I think it is in the yeah, from yes, you're right, 3 to 6. Here in write down process. So just write down faster than PS. PS is primary succession. Because soil and seed banks are already present. Because soil and seed banks are already present. Example लिखो एक. Forest regrowth after wildfire / tsunami / cyclone / volcano. These are just examples. That forest regrowth. I'm not saying growth. Regrowth matlab फिर से. It already existed, but because of any calamity, either man-made or even natural, it will again regrow. This is simply an example of. हाँ, कोई भी इसमें सब आप और भी ऐड कर सकते हो. I can even add accidental forest fires, etc. Yes. So both natural and human calamities can be a part of this. Okay. अब just heading लिख लेना. This second part we'll do in the next one. We will now write about autogenic and allogenic tomorrow. Okay. Autogenic and allogenic we will write tomorrow. And again we meet tomorrow. The timings are from 3 to 6. The questions for this class I think should be very shortly shared with you along with the class notes, right? So the people who are watching online, I'll just take 1 minute if you have any doubt. This was, I think, the people watching it on YouTube. This was the last class that was to be streamed on YouTube. So the initial 4 lectures of this course have been now posted. So specifically, if you had doubt with related to the foundation class, you can just reach out. There is a number in the description section for the mentor, okay? Or any other doubt if you have related to the foundation class, online or offline, the components, or if you want to know what are things. And by now, in these classes, you also got a fair idea of how the subject is going to be done, okay? Any other doubts which, let's say, I have not been able to take up, I'll start tomorrow's class. First of all, I'll take your doubts, okay? And then tomorrow class, I've already told you, I'll also tell you a way to reach out to me. So in case there is an issue or doubt that you have directly related to the notes, etc. So directly you may also ask, fine? So I think that will also help you make this more interactive, okay? All the best then, we'll meet tomorrow, all right?